I've always felt like I'm invisible in my own house. It's like I'm just there. My dad is so focused on my grades, on my future, that I'm convinced he forgot what it's like to just be a kid. And then there's her, my stepmom. She never cared much about me, but I wasn't stupid. I saw how she treated her kids like they could do no wrong. I wasn't like them. I was just the stepkid, the one who had to prove I was worthy of a place in this house. Alex, my dad would always say, his voice stern but calm, focus on your homework. You'll thank me later when you have a good job. I hated it. I hated how he'd never say anything else. Not a single, how was your day? Or are you happy? Just grades. Always grades. No matter how hard I worked, it was never enough. My father couldn't see past his obsession with success. It was like nothing else mattered. And then there was my stepmom. She was so cold. Like there was always some wall between us. I could see it in the way she smiled at her kids, but barely acknowledged me. I'd never gotten one of the rewards she lavished on them, vacations, gifts, attention. All of that was reserved for her children. It wasn't fair, but I never said anything because what could I say? What could I do? I didn't have the right. One afternoon I sat on the couch, head buried in my textbooks, when I overheard them talking. My dad was talking about taking her kids on some trip. Cancun, I think. I don't know. I wasn't listening, not until I heard my name. I don't know, Dad said. Alex needs to focus on his studies. It's better for his future. There was something about the way he said it that made my stomach churn. He never said it like he actually cared about me. It was always about what I could do for him, what I could do for us. I wasn't a person. I was a project. I wasn't enough, not in their eyes. I stormed out of the living room, slamming the door behind me. I couldn't stand it anymore. It was all too much. Hey, what's up with you? Mike asked when I got to school the next day. He was my only friend, and he could always tell when something was off. I ran my hands through my hair, sighing. It's just the same thing every day, Mike. My dad wants me to be this perfect student. Like, that's all I'm supposed to be. And my stepmom? She doesn't even care about me. She's always focused on her own kids. Mike leaned back in his chair, looking at me with those sharp eyes of his. Sounds like they're using you, man. Like you're some kind of tool to them. I nodded, the truth of it stinging. That's exactly how I feel. I'm not their kid, not really. I'm just this thing they have to deal with. He chuckled, but it wasn't a nice laugh. That sucks, dude. You're more than that, though. Don't let them make you feel like shit. But that's all they ever did. Made me feel small, unimportant, like I didn't matter. I looked at Mike, trying to keep the anger from showing. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm just stuck in this life where nothing changes, nothing ever gets better. Like I'll always be that stepkid, the one who's never good enough. Mike raised an eyebrow, clearly unsure of what to say. You can't keep letting them do this to you. You have to fight back, Alex. I didn't know how to fight back, not yet. But I would figure it out. Something had to change. I couldn't live like this anymore, always being overlooked. The dream of being seen, being important, it was something I was starting to want more than anything else, and I wasn't going to let anyone stand in my way. Not even my dad. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the stack of textbooks in front of me, when the conversation started. It was casual at first, just my stepmom talking about how her kids were going to some expensive resort over the summer. I wasn't even really listening, too focused on the notes I had to cram for the next test. But then she said it. You're going to have to stay home, Alex. Your dad and I are taking the kids to the beach, she said, casually glancing at me over her coffee cup. I froze. What? I thought we were... No, she cut me off, not even a hint of concern in her voice. You need to focus on your schoolwork. I looked at her, my mouth going dry. She couldn't even say it without sounding like it didn't matter to her at all. I was a side note. I didn't even get a mention when they made plans. But why? I couldn't help it. I felt my frustration rising. You're taking them, but not me? I know, Alex, she said without any real empathy. But you need to prioritize your studies. You can't always get everything you want. Everything I want? I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be important. But it felt like that wasn't happening anytime soon. I felt my chest tighten. I wanted to yell, to argue, but I didn't. I just clenched my fists and said, "Fine." I got up and walked away, my stomach heavy with something I couldn't explain. Later that day, my dad came home. He barely looked at me when he walked in, not even a hello. I hated how easy it was for him to just pass through my life like I wasn't there.
Dad, can we talk?
I asked as he walked past me. I could feel the irritation bubbling up. "What's up?" he said, not really paying attention as he set his briefcase down. I took a deep breath, feeling like I was about to explode. I don't think it's fair. She's taking her kids on this vacation, and I'm stuck here doing homework, again. I could feel my hands shaking. The words had slipped out before I even realized. He stopped, finally looking at me. "Alex," he said, his tone stern but tired, "you're not going to get anywhere in life unless you focus. You've got to stop making excuses." "Excuses?" I shot back. "I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying it's not fair. I'm your son too, aren't I?" His face hardened. "This isn't about fairness. This is about responsibility. You need to take your education seriously. That's what will get you ahead, not vacation trips and distractions." "I don't care about the trips," I snapped. "I care about you actually seeing me, about you not treating me like some second-rate kid. You always push me, but you never care about how I feel, do you?" His eyes narrowed. "Don't talk to me like that, Alex. You don't understand how important this is for your future. You'll thank me later when you've got a good job and you're set." I felt my heart drop, every word feeling like a slap. "Yeah, sure. I'll thank you. I'll thank you for making me feel like I don't matter. You only care about my grades. You don't care about anything else. You're not even trying to see it. I'm trying to give you a future, Alex," he yelled, his face turning red. "This is what's best for you. This is what you need." I looked at him, the anger bubbling over, the hurt deep in my chest. "No, you're not giving me anything. You're just making me live your life, but not mine. I'm just a thing you can control." He shook his head like he couldn't understand what I was saying. "You're being dramatic. You need to calm down." Calm down? I couldn't calm down. I was beyond that. "You don't get it. You never do." I turned and stormed out of the room, my chest tight with anger. I couldn't breathe. I hated him in that moment. The walls of this house felt suffocating, and all I could think about was how much I wanted to leave. I was trapped. My dad? He didn't see me. My stepmom? She didn't care. I was invisible. Just some kid who didn't fit in, who was never good enough. I thought back to what Mike had said about fighting back. Maybe that was what I needed to do, fight back. I wasn't going to sit around and be ignored. The thought of revenge crept into my mind. Maybe it wasn't about school, about grades, about any of it. Maybe it was about me finally taking control. Because if they didn't care, I sure as hell wasn't going to keep playing by their rules. I was done being the forgotten one. It was late in the evening when I overheard them. I hadn't meant to, but I had just finished my homework and was heading upstairs when I heard my dad's voice drifting through the slightly ajar door of the study. The sound of his voice made me stop in my tracks. I didn't know why, but something about it pulled me in. "Alex just doesn't understand," my dad said, his voice full of frustration. "I've been telling him that all he needs is discipline. He needs to stop acting out, stop wasting time on distractions. He has so much potential. He'll thank me one day." A pang shot through my chest. Potential? I wasn't even a person to him anymore. I was a project, something to fix. His words felt like a punch. I swallowed hard and leaned against the wall, hoping they wouldn't hear me. I know, my stepmother replied, her voice colder than I had ever heard it. "But it's hard, you know? I feel like I'm the only one who's keeping things together. You need to be harder on him or he'll never learn." I felt my stomach churn. Harder on him? What was she talking about? I had tried my best. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't a lost cause. "I'm not saying you're not doing your part. my dad replied. But he's been giving you so much trouble lately. If he's going to make something of himself, he has to stop thinking the world owes him something. The world owes him something? I had never asked for anything. I never expected anything from them, not even love. But hearing those words, hearing how easily my dad said them like it was a fact, that I was nothing more than a hassle to him, it broke me. My heart was racing now. I didn't want to hear anymore, but I couldn't pull myself away. You're right, my stepmother said, her tone sharper than before. And I think a little more focus could do him good, but I mean, if we're honest, I'm just not sure he'll ever be ready for what's next. Maybe you should think about what to do if he doesn't shape up. Something twisted inside me. What's next? They had been talking about me like I wasn't even in the room, like I wasn't their son. I felt like my world was cracking. I couldn't breathe. My dad was choosing her over me, over his own son. I turned and quietly walked away, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't want to hear anymore, but the damage was done. My dad wasn't just ignoring me. He was actively pushing me away, handing me over to her. My own father thought I needed discipline, not understanding, not love. He didn't care that I was breaking inside. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, trying to steady my breathing. I wasn't some project for them to fix. I wasn't some experiment. But it felt like that's exactly how they saw me. I was the mistake they couldn't quite correct, the problem child who needed to be fixed. I picked up my phone and texted Mike. I overheard them talking. They don't care about me. Not really. They're trying to control me. It's like I don't even exist to them. My fingers hovered over the screen, but I didn't send it right away. What was the point? He wouldn't understand. No one would. But then I saw the dots. Mike was typing. I'm sorry, man. That sucks. But you gotta ask yourself, how long are you gonna put up with that? When do you start making your own choices? His words hit me hard. When was I gonna stop putting up with it? I felt this sudden surge of anger, something I'd been suppressing for so long, and it finally broke free. Maybe it was time to stop being the quiet, obedient son who took whatever was handed to him. Maybe it was time to take control of my life. My dad wasn't going to change. He wasn't going to see me for who I was, not as long as I was living under his roof, following his rules. And my stepmother? She'd never care. She would never see me as anything more than a nuisance, a complication in her perfect little life. I stood up and paced the room, my thoughts a whirlwind. I couldn't just sit here and let them dictate my life anymore. If they didn't care, I wasn't going to let them have any power over me. They thought I needed discipline, but what I really needed was freedom. And I was going to take it. It hurt. God, it hurt so much, but I had no choice anymore. I wasn't going to keep being their afterthought, their project. I had to leave. I had to break free for my own sanity. I wasn't going to let them control me any longer. Not now. Not ever again. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. Not after what I overheard. I wasn't going to stay under this roof, waiting for their approval. It was time to start planning. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. If I was going to get out, I had to start now. I didn't tell anyone. Not Mike, not anyone. I didn't want to risk anyone knowing. I wasn't sure what I was doing yet, but I knew I had to do something for me. I kept up the schoolwork, of course, but I started thinking less about what my dad wanted, and more about what I could do for myself. I found a part-time job at the local grocery store. It wasn't much, just stocking shelves and bagging groceries, but it was something. Something that was mine. The first few weeks were exhausting. I'd wake up early, go to school, and then head straight to the store for a few hours. I didn't get much sleep, but the more I worked, the more I realized this was what freedom felt like. Every dollar I earned felt like a step away from them, from the life they were trying to force on me. It was late one night when I finally said something to my dad. I had just gotten home from work, my body aching from standing all day. He was sitting in the living room as usual, eyes glued to the TV. "Dad," I said, my voice sharp, "I need to talk to you." He barely looked at me. "What is it, Alex?" "I've been working at the store." I kept my voice steady, but inside my heart was pounding. I'm saving up money. He didn't seem surprised, just shrugged. Well, that's good. You should focus on saving. But don't forget to study, all right? I felt a rush of anger. He didn't even care. Not even a little. He wasn't even curious about what I was doing or why. I'm not doing this for you, I said, my voice shaking. I'm doing it for me. I'm not just some project for you to fix. You never cared about what I wanted, so I'm making my own choices now. His face hardened, and I could feel the distance between us growing. What's that supposed to mean? I'm not going to be stuck here forever, living for your approval, I shot back. I'm working and I'm getting out. You won't even notice when I'm gone. The silence stretched between us. He didn't say anything. He just turned his attention back to the TV, like he was pretending the conversation never happened. I felt my chest tighten, but it was a good kind of tightness. The kind that meant I was finally standing up for myself. The days after that conversation were strange. My dad didn't say much to me and I didn't care. We passed each other in the hallway like strangers. I didn't need him to acknowledge me anymore. Mike was the only one who seemed to notice the change. He saw the way I was working harder, the way I was becoming more focused. He knew I was planning something, but he never pushed me to talk about it. He respected the silence. One afternoon after work, he asked me how things were going. I was so tired, but I couldn't hide my smile. It's not much yet, but I'm getting there. Little by little. Good for you, man. Keep it up. You deserve better than what you've been given, he said, giving me that look of support. I nodded. I don't know how much longer I can stay here, though. It's just getting worse. My dad? He's not even trying to connect with me anymore. Mike leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. Sounds like you're already out, just not physically. If you want to leave, you can. You've got the tools now. The words hit me like a punch. I had the tools now. It was up to me to use them. That night as I lay in bed, I thought about the future. I thought about leaving, about starting over somewhere where no one knew me as the disappointment, where no one could tell me what to do anymore. It was a terrifying thought, but also the most freeing thing I'd ever felt. I wasn't ready yet. But I would be soon. And when I did leave, when I walked out that door for good, I wouldn't look back. Not at my dad. Not at her. Not at the life they wanted me to live. I was finally taking control. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I'd been playing by their rules for far too long. My dad's obsession with my grades, my stepmom's control over everything I did, no more. I wasn't going to play the obedient, invisible kid anymore. If they didn't care, why should I? One evening, after another long day of work and pretending everything was fine, my dad came home. He didn't even look at me as he tossed his keys on the counter. I just sat there pretending to do my homework, but in reality, I was already thinking about how I could get back at them. You're still not done with that? He asked, glancing at the pile of textbooks on the table. His voice was that familiar mix of disappointment and disinterest. Focus, Alex, you're falling behind. I didn't even look up. I'll get to it, I muttered, not really caring. You better. I'm not gonna let you throw your future away. Throw my future away? I couldn't hold it in anymore. I shot up from my chair, slamming my hand on the table. You don't care about my future. You care about control. You've been trying to force me into some mold for years, but I'm not doing it anymore. His eyes widened, but he said nothing, too stunned to react. I didn't care. I wasn't going to let him push me around anymore. I left the room before he could respond, my mind racing. I was done with this. I didn't care about the grades anymore. I wasn't going to let him keep acting like I owed him anything. The next day, I focused even less on schoolwork. I skipped study sessions, spending my time researching ways to get out. I ignored the calls and texts from my dad, telling me to get it together. Let him think I was falling apart. I wasn't, but there was more. My stepmom. She had always been the worst of them. Always manipulating, always controlling. I'd been playing along with her for so long, pretending to be the obedient stepson, doing what she wanted. But not anymore. I started doing little things to mess with her plans. If she asked me to clean the garage, I'd leave it halfway done. If she wanted me to be home at a certain time, I'd show up later, just enough to annoy her. Every time I did something she asked, I'd find a way to turn it back on her. And then one night, I snapped. She was sitting at the kitchen table, her cold eyes glued to some magazine as usual. I walked in, not even trying to hide the anger I felt. "You never cared about me, did you?" I said, my voice shaking with rage. Her eyes flicked up to meet mine, surprised, but she didn't say anything. She just raised an eyebrow, waiting for me to explain. "You've never cared," I continued, my voice growing louder. "You never even tried to make me feel like I mattered. You only care about your perfect little family and making sure I stay in line. You think I don't see it, but I do. I know what you've been doing, what you've been saying about me." She leaned back in her chair, calm, like I was just some nuisance she had to deal with. "What are you talking about, Alex?" "You're the reason I'm miserable," I snapped. "You've always made sure I was second to your kids, that I was nothing. And you still think I don't know. You think I don't see how you manipulate everything. You've been controlling me my entire life, and I'm done with it." I took a step closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "I'm not your puppet, and I'm not going to be your little project anymore." Her expression shifted for a moment. Just a flash of something, shock, maybe fear, but it was gone as quickly as it came. "You don't know what you're talking about." "No, I do. I know exactly what I'm talking about." I leaned in closer, voice low. "And I'm not going to play along with your games anymore. You think I'll always be here doing what you want? Think again. I'm taking control of my life. I'm getting out, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." I stood there, waiting for her to say something, anything. But she didn't. She just stared at me, her face unreadable. "I'm done," I said quietly. "With you. With all of this." I turned and walked out, not looking back. The door slammed behind me, and I felt something shift inside me. For the first time in years, I felt free. I wasn't their pawn anymore. I wasn't going to be controlled. I had started the process of taking back my life. The road ahead was long, and I didn't know where it would lead, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let anyone control me again. Not my dad. Not my stepmom. Not anyone. I could feel the shift in the air. It wasn't anything obvious, just a sense of things changing. Slowly but surely, I was slipping away from their grasp. I was still playing their game, showing up for family dinners, pretending to care about school, but everything inside me had already shifted. I wasn't the obedient son anymore. I wasn't their project to fix. I was done, my dad noticed. I could see it in the way he looked at me now, the small frown that tugged at his lips whenever I didn't do exactly what he expected. But he didn't say anything. He didn't ask why I was acting differently, why I wasn't as eager to please anymore. I think in some way he was afraid to know the truth. He kept pushing me, though. "You're falling behind in your studies, Alex," he would say, like that was the only thing that mattered. "Focus, it's the only way you'll get ahead." I didn't answer him anymore. I just nodded, went through the motions. One night, my stepmom decided to throw a family dinner to celebrate her kids' accomplishments. I wasn't even invited at first, but then she mentioned it like an afterthought. "Oh, and Alex, you're expected to be there too. Don't forget, I didn't even want to go." But I did. I showed up, mostly because it was expected. I walked into the kitchen, where my dad and stepmom were already talking about their plans for her kids' next vacation. It was like I wasn't even there. The dinner was as uncomfortable as I expected. My dad and stepmom beamed as they praised her children for their latest achievements. They sat at the center of attention, talking about their future, their plans, while I was off to the side, barely acknowledged. I felt like a ghost in my own home. "So, Alex," my dad said, glancing at me once during dinner, "how's school going? Are you making progress?" "Fine," I said flatly, pushing my food around on my plate. "Same as always." My stepmom gave me one of her fake smiles. "You really should work harder, Alex. Your father is right. You're so close, you just need to apply yourself." I didn't even respond. They didn't get it. They wouldn't get it. They didn't care about me as a person. They just cared about the product I was supposed to become. They saw me as an investment, something to mold into their idea of success, but I wasn't that anymore. As the evening wore on, I sat there, listening to them chatter about everything they wanted, everything they had planned. But I realized something. I didn't have to play by their rules anymore. I didn't have to sit at their table, act like their obedient child, and follow their instructions. I could leave. I could walk away and never look back. It was a strange thought, but it felt like a weight lifting off my chest. For the first time in a long while, I saw the door. I could take control of my life. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need anything from them. When dinner ended, I didn't say much. I excused myself early and went to my room. My dad didn't even notice. He was too busy basking in the glow of his perfect family. My stepmom didn't care either. She was already thinking about what her next move was going to be. But me? I was planning. Quietly, steadily, I knew I had to be careful. I had to take small steps. It was too soon to just up and leave without a plan, but I had already started saving. My part-time job was adding up, and I was learning more about how to navigate life on my own. The next few days passed in a blur of quiet defiance. I didn't talk to my dad much. I didn't let him get to me when he pushed me about school. I simply smiled and nodded, but in my head I was already long gone. The tension between us kept building. I could feel it in the air, thick and heavy, like a storm that hadn't quite hit yet. My dad knew something was off, but he didn't know how to fix it. He just kept pushing harder, expecting me to fall back into line, to be the son he wanted. But I wasn't that person anymore. I was starting to see it clearly now. I didn't need them. I didn't need their approval, their rules, their expectations. I was going to take my life into my own hands, and nothing was going to stop me. I didn't know when I would leave, but I knew it would be soon. And when I did, I wasn't going to look back. It was time. I couldn't take it anymore. The constant manipulation, the lies, the pretending. I had stayed quiet for so long, thinking I was powerless. But now I knew better. I wasn't going to be silent anymore. I wasn't going to let her continue controlling everything behind the scenes. It was time to expose her. The tension between us had been growing for weeks. My dad was more distant than ever, wrapped up in his own world, obsessed with my grades, blind to everything else. And my stepmother, she had always been the one pulling. The strings, pretending to care about me while slowly suffocating me with her control. I walked into the living room one evening, where my dad and stepmom were sitting together, talking about some event she had planned for her kids. I could feel the rage bubbling up inside me, but I kept my voice steady. I was done being quiet. "You know, I'm tired of pretending," I said, standing in the doorway. Both of them looked up, but my dad's eyes were distracted. My stepmom's face barely registered anything. She was always so calm, so collected. It only made me angrier. "What are you talking about?" she asked, feigning innocence. Her voice was so sweet it made me want to vomit. "I'm talking about how you've been manipulating everything in this house," I spat, my words sharp and deliberate. "How? You've been playing me, controlling everything, making me feel like I'm not even part of this family." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't speak. She didn't have to. I could see the mask slipping. The perfect, calm stepmother was starting to crack, just like I knew she would. "Dad," I continued, turning to him, "you've been so wrapped up in your perfect little world, so focused on my grades that you haven't noticed what she's been doing. You haven't noticed how she's been treating me like I'm not even worth your time." "Alex, calm down," my dad said, his voice tired but still trying to maintain control. "You're just upset. You don't understand." "No, you don't understand," I shouted, cutting him off. "I'm not your project to fix. I'm not a test for you to pass. You've never cared about me, not really. You only care about what I can do for you. And she," I pointed at my stepmom, She's been pulling the strings the whole time, making sure I don't matter. My stepmom stood up, her face twisted with fury now, but I wasn't afraid anymore. I was done being scared of her. "You need to stop, Alex," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about," I said, my voice cold now. "I know you've been using me, controlling me, and making me feel worthless so you could make your perfect little family look even better. You've never cared about me. I'm just an obstacle to you. But not anymore." "Enough," my dad said, standing up now. "This is ridiculous. You're being dramatic, Alex. Your stepmother has done nothing but try to help you." "Help me?" I laughed bitterly. "She's been holding me down, making sure I never get what I need, and you've been too blind to see it." I could see the doubt in my dad's eyes now, but it wasn't enough. It was too late. I had already made up my mind. I wasn't going to stay in this house for one more minute, pretending everything was fine. I wasn't going to let them keep treating me like I was nothing. "I'm done," I said, walking toward the stairs. "I'm done with both of you." I could hear my dad calling my name, but I didn't stop. I didn't care. I packed my things quietly, pulling my clothes from the closet and stuffing them into a duffel bag. Every movement felt like a step toward freedom, a step away from the life they had forced on me. I wasn't going to be a pawn anymore. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't owe them that. I left a letter on the kitchen counter for my dad, my handwriting neat and steady. "Dad, I'm sorry it had to come to this, but I can't keep living like this. You've never seen me for who I am, and you've always let her manipulate everything. I'm leaving, and I'm not coming back. Don't try to find me. I'm taking control of my life. Goodbye." I left it there, right where he would find it. As I walked out the front door, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. It wasn't easy, and it hurt, but it was the right thing to do. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. My heart was pounding, my hands shaking, but I wasn't scared anymore. I had taken control of my own fate, and nothing was going to stop me. It's strange how quickly a new life can start to feel normal. I wake up every day now, to an empty room, the silence comforting in a way I never expected. No more pretending. No more feeling like I don't matter. It's just me, doing what I need to do to survive. I still have nightmares, though. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, the weight of everything pressing down on me. My dad's disappointment, my stepmom's coldness, it all comes rushing back. But in the morning, I push it down. I get up, I go to work, I go to class. And slowly, it gets easier. I'd been working at the local coffee shop for a few months now. The pay wasn't great, but it was enough to keep me afloat, and it gave me something to do. I still went to school during the day, but at night, I found peace in the steady rhythm of making coffee for strangers. I didn't have to think. I didn't have to pretend. It was just me and the grind. "Can I get a large latte extra shot?" the regular customer asked, snapping me out of my thoughts. "Coming right up," I said, getting to work. I didn't mind the routine. It kept my mind busy. I didn't have to think about the past, not while I was moving. But the other night, I saw something that made my stomach churn. It was my dad. I hadn't seen him since I left. He walked into the coffee shop like it was any other day. He didn't see me at first, but I saw him. He looked tired. It was strange. He wasn't the same confident man I remembered. I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't want to confront him. Not yet. I made his coffee without saying a word. He paid, picked it up, and started to walk out. "Dad?" I called out before I even realized what I was doing. He froze, and for a moment, we just stood there, staring at each other. His eyes softened, and I could see the guilt there. It was like he'd aged years in the few months I'd been gone. "Alex," he said quietly, like he wasn't sure what else to say. I didn't want to feel sorry for him. I couldn't. Not after everything, but a part of me still wanted to. Still wanted him to be the father I thought he could be. The one who cared. "Why didn't you ever fight for me?" I asked, my voice thick with emotion I didn't want to feel. He looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in so long. "I thought I was doing what was best for you," he said. "I never meant to hurt you." "I know you didn't," I said, shaking my head. "But you never saw me, Dad. You never saw what I needed. You were so focused on the future that you couldn't see me in the present." He ran a hand through his hair, looking defeated. "I know. I was wrong. I see that now. But it's too late, isn't it?" I stared at him, the words caught in my throat. It was too late. And I hated myself for that, for wanting things to be different. "I can't come back, Dad," I said quietly. "I've had to figure out how to live without you. I can't keep pretending I'm the son you want me to be." He swallowed hard, his eyes flicking to the door as if he was trying to hold it together. "I'm sorry. I know I failed you. I thought if I pushed you, you'd get better. I thought I was helping." "Maybe," I said, "but I don't need help anymore. I don't need your approval. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for me." For a moment, neither of us spoke. I could see the weight of my words settle on him, the realization that he couldn't change the past. He couldn't undo everything. "I've got to go," I said, turning away. "Take care of yourself, okay?" I didn't wait for him to reply. I just left. It hurt. It always hurt. But as I walked back to my apartment, I didn't feel the crushing weight of his expectations hanging over me. I didn't feel like I had to be anyone's version of perfect. I was just me, and that had to be enough. The rest of the evening went by like any other. I worked, I studied, I ate a microwave dinner, and I thought about my life. It was hard, and it wasn't perfect, but I had never felt more free. I had made my choice. I had taken control of my life. And in that quiet, simple truth, I found peace. I thought about my dad again, wondering if he would ever understand. But by then, it didn't matter. I had moved on. I had to. The past was behind me, and I couldn't change it. I wasn't sure where my future was going, but for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. The price of freedom had been high, but it was worth it. I had taken my life back, and nothing could take that from me. I didn't expect to hear about her again. After everything that happened, I thought I was done. But life has a funny way of throwing things back in your face even years later. It was Mike who told me. "You heard about your stepmom, right?" he asked casually, as if it didn't matter to him. I looked up from my coffee, suddenly feeling the weight of those old memories. "What about her? She's falling apart, man. Her kids don't even talk to her anymore." "And your dad?" He paused, giving me a pointed look. "They're barely speaking." It took a second for the news to sink in. I hadn't seen her in years, and to be honest, I hadn't thought about her much either. But hearing that felt strange. I leaned back in my chair, trying to absorb it. "Yeah, well, what did you expect?" I said, my voice quieter than I wanted it to be. Mike shrugged. "Just thought you should know. It's like karma caught up with her." Karma. The word hit me harder than I thought it would. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't care enough to feel anything more than a flicker of indifference. But there was something ironic about it, something that gnawed at me. I'd spent so much time wishing she'd get what was coming to her. And now that it was happening, I didn't feel any satisfaction. I just didn't care. It was almost like a relief, knowing that it wasn't on me to make her pay anymore. She was getting exactly what she deserved, but I didn't want to watch. I didn't respond to Mike right away. I just stared at my cup, my mind wandering. It had taken me years to get over the things she'd done to me, the ways she'd tried to tear me down. But now? It felt distant, like an old wound that had healed long ago. I wasn't the same person I was back then. You're not happy about it? Mike asked, sensing my hesitation. I don't know, I muttered. I guess I thought I'd feel different. He raised an eyebrow. You thought you'd feel what? Like it would feel good to see her life fall apart. I let out a breath, shaking my head. But it doesn't. It's just empty. She's not worth the energy. Mike was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. You really moved on, huh? I nodded slowly, more to myself than to him. I had to. I couldn't keep carrying that anger. It wasn't doing anything but holding me back. I don't need revenge. I've got my own life now. I had never realized how much I had let go of until that moment. For so long, I'd been clinging to the idea of getting back at her, of seeing her suffer for what she did. But now I couldn't care less. It wasn't worth it. Watching her fall apart wasn't going to fix anything. It wasn't going to change what happened or who I used to be. Anyway, I said, pushing the thought aside, I don't think about her anymore. Mike didn't press it. Instead, he smiled. Well, good for you, man. Sounds like you're doing okay. I wasn't sure I'd ever be okay in the way people talk about it, but I was moving forward, and that felt good enough. Later that night, I sat alone in my apartment thinking about the past. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad either. I was just free. The phone buzzed on the table, a message from an unknown number. It was a photo. My dad and my stepmom sitting across from each other at a cafe, looking like strangers. The distance between them was obvious. My dad looked tired, worn out, and she was nothing like the woman I remembered. She looked small, defeated. I didn't feel anything seeing that photo, just a small, distant recognition of the people they had become. I didn't respond to the message. I didn't need to. I'd moved on. I had my own life now, and the past no longer had a hold on me. Whatever happened to her, whatever happened to my dad, it didn't matter anymore. What mattered now was me. And for the first time in a long time, I was okay with that. It's funny how life just moves forward, whether you're ready for it or not. I've been out on my own for a while now, and it's been hard, but it's been mine. I'm not the kid I used to be, waiting for someone to give me approval. I don't need it anymore. I was sitting at my desk tapping away on my laptop when Mike dropped by for a visit. He knocked once, then barged right in as usual. Dude, you're killing it, Mike said, flopping down on my couch. I still can't believe how much you've grown. This place is like your own little empire. I smiled and leaned back in my chair, stretching. Empire, huh? It's just a small apartment and a part-time job, but yeah, I'm doing okay. He raised an eyebrow. Just okay? Man, you've got your shit together. You're not living paycheck to paycheck anymore. You've got friends, you're actually happy. That's huge. Yeah, I guess it is, I said, feeling the weight of his words sink in. I hadn't really thought about it that way. It felt like a lifetime ago when I was still stuck in that house, still pretending to be someone I wasn't. So, Mike continued, what's next for you? What's your big plan? I leaned back, crossing my arms. Honestly, I don't know. I've been taking things day by day. The job's fine. I'm saving up for my own place. I want to go back to school eventually, maybe even start something on my own. Dude, you're on the right track. Keep doing your thing, I nodded. I'm not worried about the future anymore, Mike. It's not like before when I was waiting for someone to tell me I was worth something. I'm worth something now. I'm doing this for me. He smiled, and I could see the pride in his eyes. That's exactly it. And I'm proud of you, man. I nodded, looking down at my phone when a message popped up. It was from my dad. Alex, I think we need to talk. I stared at the message for a long time before I put my phone down. It wasn't like I hadn't heard from him before, but he'd never asked to talk like that. The relationship between us had always been distant, and I wasn't sure I wanted to open that door again. "Everything okay?" Mike asked, sensing the shift in my mood. "Yeah," I said, running a hand through my hair.
"It's just my dad."
"He wants to talk. About what?" "I don't know," I said, shrugging. "Probably some apology or whatever." "I don't really care anymore, Mike. I've learned that I don't need his approval. I'm not waiting for him to fix things. I'm good." Mike looked at me, his expression softening. "I think you figured out the most important thing, man. You don't need anyone to tell you you're worth it. You're already there." I smiled at that. It felt true. I didn't need anyone else's validation anymore. The journey had been long, but I had found my own worth. Later that evening, I found myself sitting on the balcony, staring out at the city. It was peaceful here, the night air cool against my skin. The weight of the past had finally started to fade. I didn't feel angry anymore, and I didn't feel like I was living in the shadow of my past. I thought about my dad again. We'd never have the relationship I thought we would, but I wasn't angry about it. He had his own journey, and so did I. I had learned to live without the need for approval. I was stronger because of it. The city lights flickered below me, and for the first time, I wasn't thinking about escaping. I was thinking about the future. I had control now. I wasn't a prisoner to anyone's expectations, and that felt like freedom. I didn't need my dad to tell me I was worthy anymore. I knew it, and that was all I needed. I had finally broken free. Tomorrow would come, and I was ready for it. Whatever happened, I would handle it. The future was mine to shape. I had the power now, and I wasn't giving it up for anything. I stood up and took a deep breath, the cool night air filling my lungs. For the first time in a long time, I was exactly where I needed to be, and I was okay with that.